A very large newspaper in Kansas by the name of the Wichita Eagle started an American movement back in the 90s. After predicting the public's outlook wrong on a political campaign, editor Davis Buzz Merritt Jr. decided they needed to make a change. His new tactics wanted to make it harder in interviews. He wanted the journalists to really push for answers so that he could provide more information to the public and in return be able to better reveal the public's platforms. The newspaper began encouraging more people to vote and even arranged for a voter registry at the newspaper itself. He wanted to attack the past problem head-on and strengthen the community's connection with the paper. Case studies were formed along with focus groups so that they could better understand their community around them. Spinach journalism, as they call it, is where the ethical problem came into play. Basically, what it was telling people what they need to know can be very different from telling people what they want to know. Telling citizens what they need to know will keep them up to date and knowledgeable about what is going on around them in their community. Yet, if the papers don't tell them what they want to hear, then consumers will spend their money elsewhere and the papers will crumble. So they had to find a perfect balance. Force-feeding need-to-know information and balancing that with want-to-know information was a difficult experiment, but Merritt was able to pull it off by transforming the Wichita Eagle into a public journalism advocate. The Wichita Eagle looked for ways to inform and decide with the community rather than for the community on what the content of the newspaper should consist of. Both the citizens and the paper benefited from the transformation. Since the 90s, there have been 600 examples of public journalism emerge from the Eagles movement, all of them contradicting the belief that journalists report, citizens read, and then public opinion develops. Individuals that were involved included the primary, which was the Wichita Eagle, and then the community surrounding them, and secondary being all of the other newspapers impacted on joining the movement of turning into a public journalism newspaper, and also the advertisers that were in the newspapers. A little bit of media coverage that was involved in the case study was Cake TV, who also produced many of the projects put on by the Wichita Eagle, including the Voters Project and the People's Project. Continuing through the case study and coming upon ethical frameworks, we choose a principle like the Potterbox model. Going through the Potterbox model, starting with the definition, would be the ethical problem, which was balancing what the community wanted the newspaper to be telling them and what they needed them to be telling. Heading to the values column, the editor, Davis Merritt, as we talked about before, wanted the paper to be more connected with the community, and so he transformed the company into a civic journalism paper, as we've talked about previously. They then conducted study groups and focus groups to better connect the community and also abandoned all neutrality. Heading to the principles, we choose that doing the greatest number of good for the greatest amount of people is most adequate. After using focus groups and study groups to figure out those numbers, the eagle better realized what kind of things that the community wanted to know about. Another would be truth-telling. Heading to the last column of the Potterbox model would be loyalties. Loyalties for a newspaper always include public as the first. Second would be to the company, and by that we mean staying true to the advertisers to keep the newspaper afloat. For the conclusion, I believe that the switch from the old newspaper to the new civic journalism Wichita Eagle was basically the right move for merit. After all the effort they put into it, ultimately they just wanted to create more connectedness to the community. After listening to the community and putting in all of that effort in the study groups and focus groups to figure out exactly what the community wanted, they were able to bond and be part of the community. The community ended up promoting a healthier organization and a more successful one at that. The research involved with the case study answered pretty much everything that I was looking for, although there wasn't very much to go off of.